Hello everyone, this is Chris, and this is the first video in a series of videos for learning AutoCAD architecture. Um, you can get the program by following a link that I provided in an email about a month ago. It will take you to a part of Autodesk's website, which will allow you to register with a license. You'll need to create an Autodesk account if you have not created one already, and you need to use your student email to verify that you're a student, because you'll be getting the student provisional license, which means that you'll be given access to almost all of Autodesk's products, including AutoCAD architecture, for free for 3 years, which is pretty awesome that they have that available. It will need to be on a PC. I thought it was also available on a Mac, but it's not. It needs to be on a PC. If you've downloaded and installed it, the first run initialization, the wizard will take you through it. When it loads, it'll take you to a screen that's similar to this. This is called the Start menu. The Start menu is a basic menu. It allows you to connect to their cloud system for Autodesk, some recent documents. Down here under the Learn tab, they have tutorials for very specific features of the program. If you watch these, they're no more than a few minutes, but if you watch these are really complicated. They assume that you are intermediate user or higher, right? If you're an advanced user. I've already prepared a file called AutoCAD Practice Model. This video is going to go over the setup. Unfortunately, the program that I'm using to record this, I'm actually, for those of you who are curious, I'm actually cheating a little bit. I'm on Windows 10, which allows you to label certain programs as games, even though they're not games, and you can record games. So I'm recording my audio and my screen through AutoCAD, but unfortunately the program is not smart enough to recognize that AutoCAD has various menus, so it won't actually read the menu itself. It'll still read the background. I've had to redo a couple videos, unfortunately. So anyways, this video is going to go over the layout, particularly why, not why, but how AutoCAD is set up, how to read it, how best to use it, and some of the ways, some of the things that you can edit, because like I said, the menus are not showing properly. They're not going to show at all, actually. I'm going to do my best to describe them in words and where to go and where to find things. But first, let's go over some of the layout. This thing I'm zooming in and out of, this is called the model space. There are two spaces in AutoCAD. There's the model space and then there's the paper space. We may or may not be using the paper space. The model space is three-dimensional. It's an X, Y, and Z axis right now. Now you can see all the axes. The paper space is two-dimensional. It's the length of the paper and the width of the paper. The paper space allows you to plot things, allows you to export things in two-dimensional formats like images, renders, or PDFs, or things like that. The cover photo that I did for the subgroup project on the Facebook page, I did through I did it through model space, but I made it act like it was doing it through paper space. That was a render done. So that's the kind of thing that paper space is used for. This is what paper space looks like by default. For you, this will not be black, this will be white. I just made my paper black. It's easier for contrast. But this is not really something that we will probably be using. In 2016 version, I want you guys, okay, well first of all, I want you guys to download 2016 or 2017 version of AutoCAD. Do not do 2018 and do not do anything less or older than 2015. The difference, a key difference between 2016 and 2017 is that 2017 has these tabs up here and 2016 does not. So I got to this by hovering over it and then just hovering over these. But in 2016, you can do that by going into the bottom left here and then clicking on the model space. The model space itself should be everything drawn in the model space should be drawn in exact units, precise units. So if I want to draw a 3 foot wide thing, then I better make it 3 feet wide in the model space. Paper space you can scale up or down as you see fit, which is why it's good for exporting into different file types. Okay, so now about the layout. There are 4 main components of the layout of the user interface. The first is probably the most obvious. It is the ribbon, which is up here. All these little buttons, all the shiny things, this is all part of the ribbon. This stuff up here and also this stuff down here is also called the ribbon. This is part of it. The ribbon is divided into three main characteristics, 3 main categories. The tabs, which are up here. Right now we're in the Home tab, but there's also the Insert tab, the Render tab, which I use to do the cover photo, the Manage tab, and so on. This is the tab to go use the cloud service that they have. We're going to use Google Drive because Google Drive is easy, a lot easier than this. Under each of the tabs, we have sections. This is the Build section, the Draw section, the Modify section, and so on. And under each of the sections, we have the families. So an example is these are all circles, but these are different ways to input circles. So in reality, these are all part of the same family. The family is called circles. Or this is the polygon family. All of these are considered AutoCAD polygons. Ellipses, trim family, and so on. So these are all inside their own sections, and each of the tools are within their own families. Some of the tools like Explode, Offset, and Erase do not have families. They're kind of their own family. But generally, if you're hanging out in Vision Tools, and I'm telling you to go to the Trim tool, then I'm going to say it's in the Model tab under the Modify section in the Trim family. And there it is. So that's the way you provide people instructions. Down here are the passive tools. So the ribbon on the top, all the things up here are active, which means that if I click anything, then it puts me in a command. See down here in the bottom left, it says Erase Select Objects. It's asking me to do something. This is an active command. But there are commands that are passive, and a lot of those commands just display naturally over here. So I had these 2 highlighted earlier. These are the snapping. So snapping is a passive thing. Whether I have snapping active or not can be determined by looking down here. There's a lot more things that we can do. I can type in the coordinates. So by moving my cursor around, I'm changing the coordinates. And the idea is that you want to utilize the active tools by looking at the passive tools. And the passive tools determine how you input certain things. The third category of the layout are the palettes. So right now I have 3 active palettes. The first is, I have 4 active palettes. The first is the properties palette, which is this, that's moving around. The second, I guess, that I forgot I had moving, is the render palette. I have the layer properties palette and the external references palette. There's a lot more than these palettes. These palettes are not the only ones that are available. Palettes are just like the passive part of the ribbon. Palettes give you information about the objects that you have selected or the operations that are happening. So a render is not really an object, but it is something that's happening in the background. And so this is going to give me stats. This is the setup, the render presets manager. So this is the palette that allows me to set up a render, and then it brings up a separate menu for the render itself. But palettes are a very important part of the AutoCAD experience, if you can call it that. They give you essential information about the stuff that you're doing. I'm going to close that because I don't need it. And the fourth part is not really an obvious part, and it's the menus. So I actually consider menus their own category. And part of that is the command bar. The command bar down here is technically a palette, but I consider it a menu because it gives me access to all the menus. The command bar is really important. There are many, many, many commands in AutoCAD. And as you seeing, like some of these down here, some of these sections have pull-down menus. And there's a lot of sections in each of the tabs, and there's a lot of tabs. So as you can imagine, there's a lot of tools in the ribbon alone. But the ribbon only accounts for about 20% of the total commands in the program. So there's actually hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of commands in this program. It's not really feasible for me or anyone else to actually go through each of the commands and explain their usefulness. So what I'm going to do in these series of videos is I'm going to explain the reasoning behind why you want to use certain tools and certain commands the way you do. I cannot possibly just go through and teach someone AutoCAD. So this is going to be a learning experience together. Like I said earlier, the program that I'm using, the Xbox program that I'm using to record the screen in my audio is not really good at menus. So this part's going to be boring visually, but try and pay attention audibly. The options, I don't even know if you can see this, but if you click on the logo in the top left, it brings up this. You have to be in a file in order to access the options. If you can see this, I'm going to go back to the start menu and show you the difference. When I click on the logo, this options thing is gone. But when I go into the file, kind of wait for it to do its thing, then I go into the logo, the options is here. So this is a menu. All the options of the program, or most of the options of some basic settings, are in this menu. The first thing you want to do in this menu is you want to go to the Files tab, which is the farthest left. And there are two places that I want you guys to go to. The first is under Template Settings. Click the plus that's next to it, and it will bring up 4 menus. I want you to ignore all of them except for the third one down, which is the default template file name for QNew. QNew is the command. And I want you to click on the plus that's next to that, and then click on the path that's right below it. So AutoCAD by default has a bunch of different templates that are used, and templates give you basic information about the file. They're actually very useful, but they're really detrimental if you do not use the right template. It's kind of like trying to input imperial units in a metric template. Like, it's possible, but it's going to be difficult and it's going to be annoying. So when you click on the path underneath, directly underneath the default template file name for QNew, go up to the top right and it says Browse. You're going to go into Browse, and you're going to go on your computer into your File Explorer or whatever you're using. Go to the Google Drive for the project, and under each of the building folders, like Toyon has one, and Tamarack has one, and Sequoia has one, it's the file that you're looking for that's in every one of those folders is called the Campus Projection Base. It's a template file. Download that file onto your computer and put it in a place that you'll remember. And then while you're in the browse, under this template thing, find that file and double click it. It will then use that as the place, it will use that in place of the default AutoCAD template. Once you're done with that, go back to your options. You can close the template settings. You can click the minus to make it back into a plus, so you don't need that anymore. And then do the automatic save file location. Click the plus next to that. And yet again, there's another browse thing. and you should browse and change that folder to be a folder that you know how to get to. If you want to have AutoCAD automatically save your progress every few minutes or whatever, which is really a good strategy, it will save automatically, but it will save to a specific folder in your computer. By default, it saves it to under your app data in your temporary files, and if you don't know where to find that, it's kind of a pain in the ass. So make sure to change it before you start working in the program. Go into Browse and then change it to whatever folder you want. And there are some other ones, but some other settings under this Files thing, but I'm not going to get to that. Under Open and Save tab under the Options menu, still in the Options menu, it says Save As. Make sure that you're saving as an AutoCAD 2013 drawing. And make sure that you maintain the drawing size compatibility. Make sure that's checked. And the maintain visual fidelity for annotated object needs to be checked off. Everything else is fine. That's okay. Plot and publish. Make sure that you have use as default output device checked, and the Microsoft Print to PDF is selected. Under System, click Automatically Check for Certification Update, and also go into your graphics performance. And if you have a dedicated graphics card, like an NVIDIA graphics card or something like an AMD or whatever, AutoCAD can use it, and this is where you specify. For me, my AutoCAD is a little bit messed up. It's not actually using my graphics card, it's using a weird virtual graphics card. But you want to make sure the hardware acceleration is turned on. And once it's turned on, you should click all these different things. High quality geometry, smooth line display, and so on needs to all be clicked on. You can hit OK. I think that's it under... Yeah, that's it. Don't do anything else under options. Okay. Once you've changed those options, you probably want to change where your palettes are. Your palettes are very important. You need to use your properties palette often. For this project, we will be doing a lot of external referencing and layer managing. So you'll need to have all three of these palettes active. So a really good way to easily access your palettes is, well, to change that, you want to go into your user interface. This is going to use the command bar, and the command to get to it is CUI. Okay, it lagged a little bit. CUI is the command. When you hit enter, it's going to bring up yet again another menu. I apologize for not being able to see this. It will bring up a complicated looking menu. In the bottom left, it should say all commands only. And that gives you a list of all the commands. You can count them if you want and give me the right answer. But in the top left, it should have everything under ACA. That stands for AutoCAD Architecture. And everything should be underneath that. If it's not, let me know, and I'll try and troubleshoot it. Under ACA and under Workspaces, there should be Architecture Default. And that should be parentheses current. In other words, that should be the current workspace, is the architecture default workspace. If you click that, on the top right, it says workspace contents, and it gives you a bunch of information about it. Here is where you can change, you can edit where the ribbon tabs are and where the ribbon sections are, and you can change menus and your toolbars and things like that. But really, a good start is to change your palettes. And when you click the plus next to palettes, it will give you a list of all the palettes that are in the program. Technically, it's kind of weird the way they do it. Technically, the ribbon is a palette and the command line is a palette, but this is where you can edit palettes. The Properties, External References, and Layer Properties Manager are the three palettes that you're going to be using the most. If you click Properties, that's probably the most important one. Click Properties. It will show under Appearance what properties are currently active. So for me, it says that my properties window is showing, its orientation is floating, and it's auto docking false and auto hiding false. That basically means, if I can get out of this, that basically means floating refers to the fact that I can just drag this anywhere and then leave it there and it'll stay there. Docked false refers to the fact that I can drag it anywhere. And auto hide means that this doesn't curl back up into like a little scroll. It just kind of stays showing like this. The Layer Properties Manager, which is this over here, is a good example of something that is docked and has auto hide. So this is docked, which means it's all the way over here on the bottom left, in the left, and it stays showing as long as my cursor is on it. When I take my cursor away, it goes away. So that's what those things mean. And showing means if it's actually active. So let me go back into the CUI, the Customized User Interface. You can change all the palettes that you want showing. To recap, External References, Properties, and Layer Properties Manager are the three palettes you'll be using most often. So you should have those showing, and you can move them however you want. I highly suggest not changing anything else in your workspace because there are some issues that will be permanently existent if you change things in your user interface. So try not to mess around, because I used to do that. I used to go into my user interface a lot, and I'm now living the consequences of doing that. And some things are a lot harder to fix even after a clean reinstall. So try not to mess around with it too much, is the general story. I think that's it for the layout of the program. As we continue on, I'll be showing some very specific parts of the layout. Next video, I'll be going over the basic ways to draw line work and some of the ways that you can edit line work and look at its properties. But as far as this video is concerned, I'll see you guys next time.